let's connect to an example when mishandling of foreign relations coupled with extreme ideology, it's led to war, specifically World War II and its epic battles. One crucial battle in the war occurred this week, starting on May 4th, back in 1942 in the Pacific Theater between the Imperial Japanese Navy and the United States Navy. It was the Battle of the Coral Sea. And let me start by pointing out what many don't know, which is the location of the Coral Sea itself. It's the body of water just south of the Solomon Islands and bordered by northeastern Australia. The battle itself is notable for several reasons, but most military historians, they point to it being the first battle in naval history that was fought without the ships ever coming into sight of one another or firing directly at each other. And that's because this was a naval battle of aircraft carriers. And this battle established carriers as the new dominant weapon of choice in naval wars. And historians, they also cite the Battle of Coral Sea as significant because it represented the first time the United States and its allies successfully held a line in the Pacific that they would not allow to be crossed by the Japanese. Up to that point in the war, the Japanese enjoyed shocking success and rapid successes. They appeared to be virtually unstoppable at that point. Frankly, the Japanese themselves were shocked at how successful they were early on. So Japan continued to be aggressive in the first half of 1942 and decided to try to invade Port Moresby on the southern end of Papua New Guinea. And this would be a direct threat if it was successful to Australia and the vital shipping lanes between Australia and the United States. So the Allies, they couldn't afford to have the Japanese take Port Moresby. Now, Admiral Fletcher headed up the naval leadership on the American side, and he was in a tough spot. He had the Yorktown and the Lexington aircraft carriers in the Coral Sea, but they were extremely valuable and precious. If they were lost, it could spell disaster for America and its allies, as Japan would be left free to roam the entire Pacific. Just keep in mind at that time, the United States Navy had only 4 major carriers in the Pacific, the Lexington, the Yorktown, along with the Hornet and the Enterprise. And the Allies at that time could not point to a material victory anywhere in the Pacific or in Asia against Japan on land or water. So the Japanese were viewed, as I said earlier, almost to be invincible and were quite intimidating going into the Battle of the Coral Sea. But the Americans could not allow that line to be crossed, where Japan would be poised at Port Moresby, right at Australia's throat. So the first day or so of the battle, planes from the aircraft carriers from both Japan and the United States, they flew missions trying to locate the other aircraft carriers, but they failed to do so. There were some minor ships that were sunk by both sides on that first day, including a Japanese-like carrier. On May 8th, both sides finally located and attacked the other's fleet carriers, with the Japanese carrier Shikaku damaged and the U.S. carrier Lexington critically damaged and later scuttled, and its fleet carrier, also the fleet carrier Yorktown, lightly damaged. Now, both sides suffered heavy aircraft losses during the battle, and the Battle of the Coral Sea ended up canceling Japan's Port Moresby invasion. They didn't go forward with the invasion. So military historians and experts, when they assess the Battle of the Coral Sea, they say it's a tactical victory for the Japanese in terms of ships sunk and a strategic victory for the Allies. And I suppose that's a sound and accurate assessment, but for me, the key to this battle is that it was the first time the Japanese were turned back since the start of the war. And the Japanese Navy the hits that it suffered to its carriers and its aircraft at the Battle of the Coral Sea. It prevented those key aircraft carriers from participating in the all-important and momentum-turning Battle of Midway, which was going to occur the following month in June in 1942. Now, I wrote a commentary on the strategic and business lessons to be learned from the Battle of Midway a while back that you can find archived on the nickdeolius.com website. And give it a read this week. Tell me what you think if you get a chance.